top of the morning, top of the evening, top of the whatever fucking time it is for you. Welcome back to the ultimate true crimes and unsolved crimes, killings, murders, shootings, bombings, airplane crashes, Sasquatch sightings, you fucking name it, it's on this behemoth of an iceberg. We're back for your bi-weekly dose with the bottom ass end half of level 10. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just dive right on in. The I65 Killer. Oh, you sack of shit website. Go back to my fucking article right now. That's what I thought, bitch. No. I will not subscribe. But you will, to me. Now, the I65 Killer is, well, an obscure killer. It's Indiana and Kentucky. Who cares what happens in Indiana and Kentucky? Besides the death of Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, which I am actively hoping for, and my day is ruined when I find out he's still alive. Now, this sack of shit website is ad-riddled and has been loading since I opened it like 20 minutes ago. So, let's go ahead and just start reading it. $426. That's how much turned up missing from 2 days in motels in northern Indiana on March 3rd, 1989. It's a paltry sum, considering what the thief did to obtain it. Spoiler alert, crimes. Exactly $179 vanished from the first crime scene, the Maryville Days Inn just off Interstate 65. The night auditor was gone too. Wow, I wonder where they went. Missing! Police found her behind the motel. Wow, who would have ever guessed? Her name was Mary Peggy Gill. There's a pegging joke to be made there, but I won't. And she was 24. According to the police, she had been sexually assaulted and shot in the head. Twice. The perpetrator then dumped her body in a secluded spot near the parking lot. Wow. Okay. Indiana State Police believe she was killed sometime between 12:30 and 2:30 a.m. Okay, not long before another Days Inn clerk met her and 52 miles down the road. Police found Jeanne Gilbert lying alongside a country road just as the sun came up. Talk about a good morning. She wasn't far from the Days Inn in Remington where she worked. Like Gill, she had been assaulted, shot, and then abandoned, and $247 was missing from the motel cash register. In 1989, Gill's family told the Indianapolis Star that Peggy worked hard at the motel, earning a promotion from maid to auditor. She loved to paint and was a talented cross-stitcher, once recreating The Last Supper with a needle and thread, and funnily enough, never knowing which supper would be her last. Gilbert was an attentive mother of two. Her daughter, Kimberly Gilbert Wright, now an attorney in Lafayette, told WLFI, I have no clue what that stands for because I don't care about the locale, last year that her mom wasn't even supposed to be working that night. She had traded shifts to watch her daughter's last game as a cheerleader. Well, she saw last something alright. Ballistic and DNA tests later proved the slayings were committed by the same sick son of a bitch. And almost 30 years later, we haven't caught said sick son of a bitch because, spoiler alert, we don't solve these crimes here. He's one of several serial killers across the U.S. who, despite DNA evidence and fiery media scrutiny, one article written every 3 months, commits atrocious acts and somehow folds back into society, like politicians. They live as secret monsters next door, like politicians, and most of them die without ever being caught, leaving their victims' families to spend their lives ravaged with worries and haunted by, okay, we don't need the sentimental stuff, we get it, killing sucks. We discussed this like 8 hours ago into the True Crime series, which you can see right up at the top part. Yeah, I'll definitely remember to put that in. My editor won't have to remind me of the exact timestamp that I need to put that in. It's not a hint at all. Now, last month brought an exception. Son of a bitch, I could have read the Wikipedia article. Authorities finally nabbed the man accused of being the Golden State. This has nothing to do with it. This has nothing to do with it. Now, however, breezing through everything here, they think that the same strategy used to catch the Golden State Killer could surely catch the I65 Killer. I mean, after all, we have a sketch, and we have DNA connections that prove that the same man who terrorized a Columbus clerk killed Gil and Gilbert. G-name is bad luck. And a few years ago, the Kentucky State Police Crime Lab conclusively linked Heath's death to the man as well. Who's Heath? I don't know, we skipped like half the article. It may not end there. On their website, Elizabethtown Police say the man could be tied to a broadening array of serial murders. Wow, who would have ever guessed? There was a woman attacked and stabbed in Minnesota in 1991 whose description of her attacker fit the I-65 Killer almost exactly. And for reference for the description of the I-65 Killer, you see that not-so-beautiful, very punchable face over on the side of this level of the iceberg that has been brought onto the screen here. That's that douchebag. Now, of course, in 1988, hotel clerks were slayed in Florence, Kentucky, and Rockford, Illinois. You know what I've learned about this iceberg? Stay the fuck away from places named after towns in Italy. Serial killers just congregate here in those unholy names. Italians. Well, they're not responsible for it, but Italian names? Bad luck. Neither location set along the I-65, but both squatted right off interstate highways. Wow, I wonder what this guy does for a living. I really wonder, what could he possibly do that would take him across interstate highways and offer him a high amount of killing people and then fucking disappearing? And what's that say? Detectives are exploring the possibility that they're looking for a truck driver or traveling salesman who would have been traveling the I-65 corridor in the late 80s or early 90s.
Wow, who would have ever guessed?
He would now be somewhere between the age of 55 and 65, which means you could feasibly break his bones. If you have information on any of the cases listed above, you don't. What am I kidding? But if you do, the numbers are on screen.
But you don't. Who are we kidding?
Elizabethtown's police description fits a lot of killers over the years, so it's not gonna happen. Don't hold your breath. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Bowles family murders, because it wouldn't be an episode of True Crime if we didn't discuss the horrific end of an innocent family who didn't fucking deserve it. Your favorite. Now, much in the same way that I merely adapted off of the article that was written about the I-65 Killer, I'm shamelessly gonna read all of user Sugarbird Holiday's work, but they're the ones who did that, so don't congratulate me, congratulate them. Now let's go ahead and see how good they are at writing. Probably pretty good. Unresolved Mysteries users tend to be pretty good at their shit, and I thoroughly enjoy using this page as a source. It's just really fucking long. Unlike me. Crested California is a small mountain town located in the popular San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California. Unlike most of the towns of the mountains of San Bernardino, there is a sizable amount of second homes or cabins that are only used on occasion by the owners because what is California if not hypocritical, making the community a very quiet and peaceful place to live, unlike places with actual Californians in them. The dense woods on the mountains allow for secluded cabins to be tucked away among the trees. The Bowles family was just one of the many part-timers on the mountain. They had recently purchased a small cabin on the outskirts of town to escape the hustle and bustle of Orange County on the weekends. The weekend of August 13th, 1965, the family of four had piled into the car and made their way up the winding mountain roads to their new slice of tranquility. The language here should let you know something is about to go horribly wrong. When the James, age 41, Darlene, age 37, and the two boys, Tommy, age 13, Bobby, 12, hadn't returned to their full-time residence in Orange County by Monday the 16th, extended families started to worry. The cabin was newly built, though, and it still didn't have a phone line to call because this happened in 1965. Nice. The mothers of the two parents grew increasingly concerned, and they called Darlene's brother Floyd, who in turn contacted the construction company who had built the cabin to see if they could go by and check on the family. Floyd never heard back from them. They ghosted him, much like many of your Tinder dates did and will. Next, he contacted the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office, who said they would pass on the wellness check to the local substation. Spoiler alert, though.
Police are inept. They never do the shit that they need to do.
And that is to insult police. Full insult to police. I've read so much fucking true crime where all they had to do was just the bare fucking minimum. I will disrespect police gladly. Anyway, back on track. Completely frustrated, Floyd decided to check himself and asked an employee who was familiar with the area to go with him. I just had a minor stroke reading that sentence. Floyd and his employee reached the cabin at about 5 p.m. Once there, they noticed that neither family car was in the driveway and walked up to the deck to look in the windows. Through the window, Floyd saw Barbara, the family dog, on the couch covered in blood and not moving. Uh-oh, the dog got into the raspberry jam, and now she's taking a nap.
Right.
Floyd tried the door and found it unlocked. He entered the small cabin and, moving towards the master bedroom, saw what had become of his sister and her family. At 5:10 p.m., the two men sped off and found the nearest sheriff's substation to report the gruesome discovery. When the investigating officers arrived, they found the scene exactly as Floyd had described it. The family dog dead in the living room, along with pairs of slippers, shoes, and socks on the living room floor. The four family members were all dead in the master bedroom, each riddled with bullets. James was lying in his bag on the floor of the bedroom in a pool of blood. 13-year-old Bobby. Wasn't that the 12-year-old one? Yeah, that was a 12-year-old one. You can't fucking fool me. 12-year-old Bobby was found sitting in a position back to the wall. Darlene was in a crouched position in the closet, what fucking word is that? She had been shielding her youngest son, Tommy. You can't fucking lie to me. Her older son, Tommy, at the time of their deaths. Detectives found blood smears in the living room and the dinette area, which seemed to lead to the back bedroom. 35-22 caliber shell casings were found in the cabin. 5 in the living room and 30 in the bedroom. Blood smears on the bedding in the master bedroom seemed to indicate that a weapon may have been wiped clean on the bed. Detectives were also able to find footprints in size 11 men's in the cabin. Detectives searched outside the cabin for footprints, but it had rained that last Sunday, the night before the bodies were discovered, so they had no luck. The wallet James carried was found in the cabin, but contained no money, which was deemed unusual. About 65 yards away, the car was located, and detectives staked it out for a while in case the suspect returned again, but they didn't. The local paperboy confirmed that the car had been there since at least 6 a.m. on Sunday, August 15th, when he did his morning deliveries. When the bodies of the family members were examined, each one had multiple gunshot wounds. All had numerous fatal wounds in the head and chest area, as well as wounds to the limbs and extremities. A canvass of the area turned up very little, as most other cabins within reasonable distance were part-timers and were all empty. The only exception, the first day of canvassing, was the Ogles, who had seen James on the evening of Saturday the 14th. He seemed in good spirits, and they had chatted for a few minutes before they had said their goodbyes. The Ogles hadn't heard anything unusual, but they probably wouldn't have, as there was a very large party happening a few streets away, and why would they be around those fucking Bowles chumps? That's right, they wouldn't. And a few streets, okay, I just lost where I was in the article, were found again, we're good. Another witness said the family ate dinner at the local San Mortiz Club Saturday evening, and James seemed visibly upset after making a phone call. Yet another contact stated James had told them the family was going to have a visitor around 8 p.m. on the evening of Saturday the 14th. Detectives contacted many other full-time residents of the town and part-timers who may have been around on that fateful weekend. Also questioned were friends, families, and co-workers of the couple. Detectives got lots of potential leads, but you want to guess where this goes? Nowhere. None of the evidence was ever able to be conclusively tied to anyone. There are, of course, several suspects with no motive, but we're in the vicinity and were vetted and cleared. Darlene's ex-husband. I've been fighting with myself for the last 7 minutes to not yawn, and I just lost that fight. Kill me now so that I might die with a bit of honor. Back on track. Darlene's ex-husband, Harvey M. Fulton, was also a suspect. Rumors abound at Hughes Aircraft, where both Darlene and James worked, that Fulton had harassed him. Even Darlene's family was also suspected at one point, because what's cooler than fratricide? The most promising suspect came in the form of George Robert Stewart, who is wanted on a mental warrant from Alabama, where he was suspected in the murders of the Evans brothers, 2 young boys he had, molested while living with their family. He had worked at, you're never going to believe this, a church camp, because, the church is never doing anything wrong. Definitely not. On a mountain in the nearby area of Twin Peaks. The camp confirmed they had been closed that particular weekend, so he was free to do as he wished. He had, when diagnosed, a psychopath and had strong religious fervor, so maybe they shouldn't have done that, but alright. In '67, the Sheriff's Department was advised that Stewart was now wanted for child molesting.
Wow, who would have ever thought the psychopathic, church-loving person would rape kids? I could have never seen this coming. There definitely isn't any kind of precedent.
He was arrested in September 1967 in Arlington, Texas. God, imagine going to Texas. That must be sad. Sorry, editor. Sorry, Lindare. And detectives flew down to interview him. He was given a polygraph, which, if you don't know already, is complete bullshit, and you can throw those things on plants, ask it what it thinks of a hamburger, and the polygraph will tell you the plant's lying. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Well, neither do polygraphs. And it showed deception in the results, but again,
it doesn't make sense, does it?
He continued to deny involvement, which is plausible because
polygraphs don't work.
Having no hard evidence to tie Stewart to the murdered family except the possible motive of meeting the young boys and possibly following them home, so detectives from Mobile took Stewart back to Alabama to question him in their own investigations, and in Alabama, scum like that belongs. He was released on bail in Alabama because in Alabama, scum like that belongs, after a witness in his molestation case refused to testify. Stewart is currently serving time in Illinois related to sex crimes against children, and I hope he gets raped by the biggest dick motherfucker in there daily. Think that's going too far? Well, he shouldn't have done that to kids. But the brutal murder of the Bowles family is still unsolved. You can, of course, read the full witness statements. I'm not going to, because this is paywalled. This link right here is paywalled. Anyways, there's some interesting comments here. Some people speculating, armchair Reddit detectiving, the works. But I've told you everything you need to know. You can formulate your own opinion. Next, Monster of the Mangones. The Monster of the Mangones is a name given to an unidentified Colombian serial killer who, between the 1960s and 70s, murdered somewhere between 30 to 38 children and adolescents in California. No, not California, Cali. He was believed to be a native of the city. He would kidnap and later kill most of his victims in remote vacant lots, and at the time, it was the most notorious criminal case in the country's history. For some, the monster was a simple myth or legend, and while others believed that he actually existed, later earning comparisons to Luis Gravito. His MO consisted of inserting needles into the heart and thorax, assaults, rapes, and tortures. It is believed that he used syringes to draw blood from his paled-out victims. The killer was described as a true sexual sadist and possible sufferer of clinical vampirism. During the 1960s, citizens of Cali lived in fear and uncertainty. just like everyone else did during the 1960s, as children and adolescents began disappearing from the area. On November 5th, 1963, the body of a paperboy was found in western Cali. After that, more cases of murdered young boys began cropping up. Oof, I know how to read. On December 4th, another boy was found on some grassland in a northern area of the city in what is considered to be the second recorded homicide. 8 days later, a third body lacking eyeballs was discovered on the shores of the Aguado River. 2 more bodies were discovered before the end of the year, one near the railway station and the other in Prados del Norte. At the end of the year, 5 murders were recorded between November and December. All of this similar in their brutality. That's a weird way to phrase it. In January 1964, Cali police found the mummified body of another boy who 2 days after the remains of 12-year-old Alberto Garzon were discovered. Another 3 corpses were found in the same month in different sectors of the town between February and April. Happy Valentine's Day, here's a dead kid. There were additional 3 murders, one very close to Tequendama, another in Puerto Malarino, and the last one at Potrero. Faced with the wave of murders, authorities sent a series of notices to the public claiming these bodies were likely taken from cemeteries and scattered around Cali in mostly solitary areas. Despite this, much of the press and public demanded that the killings be solved and the terror finally put to an end. The crime ceased for several months, although more cases were reported again in late 1964, and all of these events are believed to have claimed the lives between 30 to 38 young boys and men. The perpetrator was never captured and later earned the nickname Monster of the Mangones. The case led to creation of a film, which is interesting, but ultimately there was never any solution, and this sad story, like most others on this Iceberg chart, will forever remain unsolved. El Psicopata. El Psicopata, translated to the psychopath, shocking, is the alias given to an unidentified Costa Rican serial killer responsible for the murders of 19 people from 1986 to 1996 in the cities of Cartago, Curitiba, and Desamparados. He was named by the civil police of Costa Rica in 1996, who were investigating similar crimes that were not solved in the previous years. However, according to Costa Rican legislation, the crime statute limit has expired because, hey, you know what's a great idea?
Letting murders get away with it if they're not caught for a long enough time. That's smart. That's really smart. Great job. Great job.
They can no longer be... If the suspect was found, they couldn't be charged with any of the murders. Other crimes have been attributed to him, such as those of El Descuartizador, the Dismemberer, who is also never captured. His victims were single women or heterosexual couples, and they were usually attacked in places with little traffic during the night, especially in the area between Cartago, Curitiba, and Desamparados, which at the time was called the Triangle of Death, because a great time to catch somebody slacking and kill them is when they're engaging in car sex. Can't admit that shit leaves you extremely vulnerable. So you know what the trick is? Try not to have car sex. A facial composite of the murder was drawn up, but nobody was ever arrested for the crimes.
Big shocker considering it's on the Unsolved True Crimes Iceberg.
The analysis of the profile indicated that the suspect in question was a man of Costa Rican origin who lived in Nicaragua, although this was just one possibility among many others, because, hey, remember the part where we didn't fucking catch this guy? It was stated that the murder could be a Costa Rican who in 1996 was 43 years old and who was enrolled in the Nicaragua guerrilla. The Costa Rican authorities considered him dead as a result of the conflict until this individual presented his vital records requesting a cédula de identidad, which I don't know what that is specifically, but I'm gonna assume it's an identity card. Wow, who would have ever known? This was not confirmed either, and even this last suspect, a close relative of Ligue Mancho's family, whose name was now revealed, appeared before the authorities with his lawyer in order to prove his innocence. A popular but unconfirmed rumor was that the murderer could belong that is one of the most powerful families in the country, specifically the family of former President Jose Figueres Ferrer. And for that reason, the murder was never discovered, because we can't let Daddy's perfect little child get caught up for murders. It will ruin his presidency. Police officials declared that the murderer had probably undergone psychological trauma in his youth.
No fucking shit.
Related to his mother, or perhaps some sentimental companion, due to the cruelty he showed to women. The then director of the OIJ said in 1996 that there was not the slightest evidence except modus operandi and the weapon's caliber that these were just circumstantial evidence, never binding to a specific evidence. The police managed to handle up to 6 different suspects for these crimes, but again, surprise, surprise,
nobody was caught.
On November 26, 1996, the OIJ issued a press release, the first since the beginning of the murders, in which they tried to outline who the psychopath was. In the said statement, a telephone line and a postal address were offered to give confidential reports, although this did not have greater results. A change of direction of the investigation was also tried, because before that date it was thought that El Ciopata was a murder of a moralistic type, but then tried to orient his profile towards that of a lustful killer who killed to consummate his sexual fantasies. Although the reason for this turn in the investigation was never clarified, I'll clarify it for you.
Because fuck you, that's why.
The redirection in the investigations was refuted by professionals who had been involved in the investigation, which lets you know that it's really going to work. One of these professionals who was involved in the investigation was a Dr. Fernando Garzonio Meseguar, who maintained that El Ciopata had no sexual purposes in his crimes, and that if the sexual contact was made with his victims, it was the motivation for the murders. That sentence didn't make much sense. Hold on, let me go ahead and reread that. If the sexual contact, it was the motive. Yeah, that's a contradictory statement, Doctor, but anyway. The crimes that have been for sure linked and listed to him that are also conveniently on the Wikipedia page for me to read to you are Ligua Camacho Bermudez. On June or July 14th, they don't even know the fucking month, that's how you know this really bodes well, 1987, Ligua Camacho Bermudez was reading a book on her bed. She was then shot from outside of her house, dying on the spot. Don't leave your fucking windows unlocked. This event contradicts some modus operandi of El Ciopata, since the latter used to attack in solitary places, not in houses or neighborhoods. The only proof that it was the same criminal was a ballistic test. Fingerprints were also found, but no suspects were arrested, and a positive comparison could not be made, because let me tell you something about fingerprints. You have to, rub your finger, not even rub, you have to just press your finger onto one surface for at least 10 seconds for a full fingerprint to be there. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And that claim that no fingerprints are alike was a claim made by a drunken eugenicist. There was no scientific backing behind it, which is really neat, isn't it? Anyway, the last crime of the suspected El Ciopata occurred on October 26, 1996, in the Petara area of Desamparados, south of San Jose. Mauricio Cordero and Ileana Alvarez were in a Nissan Sentra, should have been in a Nissan R32 GTR Skyline, when they were surprised by a stranger who forced them to abandon their car and walk 500 meters. He then proceeded to shoot both of them. While no one was ever caught for this or other crimes attributed to the psychopath, the Judicial Police of Costa Rica identified an MO identical to the murders of those 2 and 19 other people between 1986 and 1996. Now, here's some other curiosities about that, like the fact that the crimes attributed to El Ciopata were carried out with an M3 submachine gun, which used 45 ACP ammunition, which is commonly used in pistols, but submachine guns commonly use pistol calibers, basic gun stuff. And in July 2005, a very similar weapon was buried in the courtyard of a house located in the Death Triangle, but ballistic analysis determined that the weapon found did not coincide with the M3 used in the attacks. Suspicious. Huntington prom night murders. Sounds romantic. We're reading a timeline from the Tri-State's trusted news source. Click hashtag I support local for more information. I won't. Fuck you. And we're here because there isn't a Wikipedia article easily found, and believe it or not,
I'm not reading through another 50 fucking minute unsolved article.
So, let's go ahead and just get into it. May 22nd, 2005. 4 teenage victims, what the fuck is that word? C. Ward, 19 of Huntington, Edric Clark, 18 of South Point, Ohio, Michael Dillon, of 17 of Huntington, and Megan Poston, 16 of Barbersville, are gunned down and killed at 4:30 a.m. near 1410 Charleston Ave in Huntington. May 23, 2005. Police make 2 morning raids in a rush to gather clues. Detectives say the shooting was related to the Detroit-Huntington drug trade. Ward is said to have been the target of the attack and everyone else was killed because
no witnesses.
About 1,000 gather for a candlelight vigil at the shooting site. May 25, 2005. Huntington Police Captain Stephen Hall says Stone Cold's killers have likely returned to Detroit. June 2nd, 2005, 2 detectives leave Huntington for Detroit. It's later learned they are on the hunt for Cherilithia Bunny Holmes. I'm sorry to Bunny there. Whoever the fuck gave her that hard to pronounce of a name should be punished. She is arrested on an unrelated drug and firearm charge a day later. June 3rd, 2005, victims' families unite behind a reward fund. Group hopes to raise $15,000. To date, the fund has grown to $48,000, and the family agrees to pay the remainder to create a $50,000 reward. June 6, 2005, a Detroit FBI agent testifies that Huntington authorities have 3 confidential informants suggesting that the Holmes ordered shooters from Detroit to kill Ward after he allegedly ripped off money and/or marijuana from Holmes. Pro tip for drug dealing.
Always make sure you have the money before you give him the product. Don't be fucking stupid.
Now, of course, attorneys for Holmes have consistently maintained those accusations are untrue and that she had no role in the crime. Well, of fucking course they would. They're being paid to do so. June 22nd, 2005. The public death certificates give credence to widespread belief that Ward was shot multiple times. Overkill, am I right? The certificate states his official cause of death as gunshot wounds to the chest, and the other victim's cause listed are also as gunshot wound of the chest. The exact number of gunshots has never been released by police because what the fuck would it matter? Why do you need to know that? July 25th, 2005, Mayor David Feltonton answers criticisms about why he waited more than 2 months to address public concerns about the slayings. The reason? He doesn't give a shit. His press conference is held at the crime scene where weeds have grown around flowers planted in the memory of teenagers. Wow. How imagery. July 27th, 2005. Police search a home in the 1800 block of Marshall Avenue after receiving information as to the identity of the shooter and a possibility that the weapon was tossed into the Ohio River. Good fucking luck finding it then. A Huntington detective later says the information didn't pan out. Of course it didn't. Are you gonna dredge a whole fucking river for a gun? No, you're not. August 2005, Lamar Advertising donates space on 5 billboards to advertise a reward fund. The billboards feature photos of the victims and asks, "Who murdered our children?" Murderers, obviously. November 2005, Huntington Police Lieutenant Mike Albers tells the Herald Dispatch that police are working to pressure multiple involved parties into providing information. Good fucking luck. Some of those parties are said to be sitting in jail on unrelated charges while others remain free. Snitches get stitches. No names are released. February 6, 2006, federal court testimony given by Huntington Police Detective Paul Hunter indicates Holmes gave the police the names of the people she believes might have killed the teenagers.
Well, why would you know that?
The hearing concerned the search of Marshall Avenue. April 6, 2006, Megan Poston's mother, Sabrina Poston, appears at the Montel Williams shows. She asks his psychic Sylvia Brown for help in the investigation. She agrees to help for the low price of $5 million. Brown says she believes 4 Huntington men were involved. Her belief is that those men are fairly well known in the area's drug ring. Typical psychic answer, I'm gonna give you the most fucking vague thing and pretend it's mysticism. This is why all of spirituality looks stupid as shit. Good fucking job. May 2006. Hall refutes any claim that the quadruple homicide has become a cold case. No, guys, it's only been a year and we only have one suspect who we can't convict. It's not a cold case, I promise. He says he personally regrets no arrests have been made. Well, then go fucking fix that. He says the department is being careful not to rush and make an ill-advised arrest. Most departments do, so good job, never mind. May 19th, 2006. It's announced that Holmes has been indicted in connection with the July 28, 2004 shooting and death of Wendy Morgan. Witnesses testified she ordered Morgan's death because the drugs and money had been stolen from Holmes's crack house. Pro tip to drug dealing: don't give your buyers the product without the money. Don't do loans. You're not a bank. You can't have the federal government get that back for you, and then you have to resort to murder like a fucking dum-dum. The cops don't care if you sell drugs, it happens everywhere, just don't be a fucking idiot. But if you kill people,
they're gonna have to give a shit, bozo.
So, what do I blame this on? I blame this on Holmes being a fucking idiot who shouldn't have been in the drug dealing game to begin with. May 20th, 2006. Huntington High posts its first prom since the shooting. Poston and Dillon had attended Huntington's prom in 2005 prior to being shot. Also, Huntington hosts... Wait, what? Didn't the shootings happen in 2004? Anyway, Huntington hosts its first Teen Issues Day at Ritter Park. The event was organized by a senior at Huntington High School who naively believed they could change the overbearing crushing system we live in. The event was aimed at informing people about tobacco, drug, alcohol, and violence prevention. Sure, that definitely helped. Good try though, kid. August 29th, 2006. Holmes's then attorney, Todd Twyman, what the fuck kind of last name is that, says his client suffers from a progression of media coverage. He says Holmes had never ordered harm to anyone. Twyman then died April 5th, 2007, when he ran into Interstate 64. Two tractor trailers hit the victim. Rest in peace. Just kidding. You were just doing your job. Rest in peace. March 30th, 2007, the All Saints Anglican Church and several youths begin work transforming the crime scene into the Hope House. The group hopes to turn the house into a place of hope, education, and mentoring for the community. No comment. May 19th, 2007. Hope House is dedicated as part of the second Teen Issues Day. Families of the victims join others in a march from the house to Ritter Park, the site of the Teen Issues Day. January 17th, 2008. The case is definitely cold now. Just go ahead and accept that. A federal judge dismisses a massive drug case. Hall said the authorities had hoped the case would provide details about the homicide, but nope. The judge cited a mistake in handling nearly 12,000 wiretap phone calls, which were critical to the prosecution. Good fucking job. Fantastic job.
You're really the best at what you do.
March 25th, 2008, state witnesses Larry Clark mentions a homicide during the cross-examination at Holmes's unrelated murder trial. He said Holmes offered him $1,500 to kill Morgan and offered similar deals to many others. Rookie fucking numbers. If anyone's gonna take $1,500 to kill somebody, they're not the kind of idiot you want to pay to kill somebody. Great fucking job, you idiot, you absolute nincompoop. You should have just stayed broke. You shouldn't have ever tried to be in the hustling game. Now, this guy told the jury, I'm telling you, I know what happened, and I was there. I have no doubt in my mind she ordered that woman's murder, and I have no doubt in my mind she ordered 4 other kids' death in the town. The judge denied a defense request for mistrial. March 28, 2008. Jury convicts Holmes of first-degree murder for ordering Morgan's death. Holmes continues to deny all allegations. Sucks to be you, doesn't it, you fucking idiot? May 19, 2008, Hall tells the Herald-Dispatch he sees no closure in sight. He said investigators get fewer telephone calls, if any, and it's been quite some time since new information was received. That's kind of how it happens with murders. He expressed disappointment not solving the case, no fucking shit, but said the department hasn't given up. They already have. Oh, well, that's all of it. So, there you go. What do you need to know? Holmes is a fucking idiot who should have never been dealing drugs in the first place because they're simply too fucking stupid to grasp the concepts of business. Is that a harsh judgment to make? Yes. Will I make it again? Yes. HachiOs Supermarket Murders. Okay, so, thank you, phone notification. I really appreciate it. That vibrating is a time recorded video at like 11. Okay, so, I couldn't really find much, but there's a Japan Today article about it, so we get to read an article right from the racist country itself. A memorial service was held at a school in Machida, Tokyo on Saturday to offer prayers for the victims of a triple murder at a supermarket in Tokyo's Hachioji in 1995. One of the victims, Megumi Yabuki, 17, was a student at the high school, and the service was attended by some of her former classmates and school officials. The National Police Agency is offering 6 million yen as a reward for information leading to the arrest for the person or persons responsible for the murders of Yabuki, Hiromi Maeda, and Noriko Inagaki, who were respectively 16 and 47. At around 9:15 on July 30th, 1995, the three employees, all part-time workers at the Nanpayawada Supermarket in Hachioji City, were shot and killed in the store's second-floor office. Each had been bound with tape and then killed with a single gunshot to the head. 25 years on, there's been no resolution in the case, although there are some theories. Initial police reports described it as a failed robbery attempt. Since none of the three employees knew the combination of the store's safe, the Tokyo Metro Police said the fingerprints lifted off the tape used to find the victims, believed to be that of the perpetrator, were found to closely match those of a Japanese male who died of natural causes in 2005. Because, what's Grandpa doing in his free time? He's
Robbing a fucking bank.
Initially, those fingerprints were not considered complete enough to make a conclusive match that would be as admissible as evidence. That's because the science of fingerprints is not at all exact or really good unless you purposefully leave a fingerprint. However, investigators, after extensive searches of print databases, believe the prints corresponded closely with a man who lived in the Tama district in West Tokyo. Normally, the legal criteria for a fingerprint match are correspondence at 12 or more points, which is why initial searches of databases failed to narrow down a suspect. An 8-point match is still said to have an accuracy of about 100 million to 1, but that doesn't matter when there's 7 billion fucking monkeys on the planet, does it? Well, the prints left behind in the tape couldn't provide a 12-point match. The man's prints were in the database due to his having a prior criminal record, which means surely he escalated from petty theft to murder. Definitely. Great job, Japan. You solved it. Good job. At the time of killings, police found nothing to suggest a man had been in the area where the crimes took place. Okay, so drop that lead. At this point, police concede that the 8-point fingerprint match is not conclusive and would be insufficient to be used as evidence in solving the case. Police said they are still trying to establish links between the dead suspect and the murder weapon, an illegal handgun believed to have been manufactured in the Philippines. Legal guns. Police pursued an earlier lead in 2009 when a Japanese man on death row in China for drug trafficking made a statement that a Chinese man in Canada was involved in the Hachioji murders as part of a gang of Japanese and Chinese who carried out a series of robberies in Japan in the 1990s. The Chinese man, Liang He, had been wanted in Japan for using forged passports to leave the country in 2002, but he obtained Canadian citizenship in 2006. The National Police Agency first filed an extradition request with the Canadian authorities in 2010 with the Ontario High Court. Liang filed an appeal that was rejected, and he was extradited to Japan in 2013, where he was jailed for passport fraud, but he has since refused to talk about the supermarket murders. Police ask that anyone with any information call the case at 042-621-0110. No one call that number. I know none of y'all motherfuckers, as glorious or inglorious as you may be, have information. Unless you do, in which case don't listen to me, but I know none of you. I don't even think I have a Japanese subscriber, to be honest. Tammy Cooper and the Allens. Another one with no Wikipedia article. Fantastic. Which led me to Reddit, which led me to this website, I can feel the AIDS from all of the advertisements. Actually, no, that's insulting to AIDS and HIV. I can feel the syphilis. There's nothing good about syphilis. Where's my fucking story, you sack of shit, you piece of shit? Take me back to my fucking art. There we go. There we go. No, fuck you, fuck off. Alright, let's go ahead and read this. Investigate, and just so you guys know, I'm swearing at the webpage, not y'all. Y'all are doing good. Y'all are doing great. I'm proud of y'all. Thanks for watching this far. The brutal killings of Tammy Cooper and her 3 children haunt the community 12 years later, and family and friends still contend Tammy knew her murderer. She was very outgoing and may have made a mistake and met the wrong person, Mary Cooper said about her dead daughter. Speaking of her slain daughter and grandchildren in a voice shaken with age, she referred to them as my babies, saying Tammy's best trait, her personality, may have led to her meeting someone who may have been her killer. On October 25, 2004, police arrived at the Cooper home in the 500 block of North Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Uh-oh, don't tell me that was Vegas. Uh-oh. To find Tammy and her 9-year-old twin boys, Cadiz and Kashim Allen, and 11-year-old Mahogany Allen, had been killed. Oh boy, heartbreaking. You know what else is heartbreaking?
The amount of fucking ads.
According to a previous AJ Media story, the 4 had been cut, stabbed, and beaten in various areas of the residence. Jesus Christ. On the 12th anniversary of the murders, Lubbock police released a statement calling it one of Lubbock's most violent and gruesome murders. Okay, so not Vegas, Lubbock, wherever that is. In a previous interview with AJ Media, Ray Martinez, retired Lubbock police detective, said investigators believe the assailant may have been led into the home. Because that happens sometimes. Tammy's final words to a friend during a phone conversation included the name Butch. It's always a red flag name. If you meet someone named Butch, you better watch your back around them. Investigators, past and present, believe he is a person of interest in the case. How surprising. We believe that the victim knew this Butch because, number one, she's on the phone with a friend of hers and she doesn't call out for help, and she doesn't ask her friend to call 911 or anything. You forgot to bring up number 2. Martinez said in the 2014 interview that I have not read. She said his name is Butch, he's not from here. Now that could mean a lot of things. That could mean he's not from that apartment complex, probably not what she was talking about. That neighborhood, probably not what she was talking about. Or the city, probably what she was talking about. Today, the building where Tammy and her children were found shows signs of new life, which is what Tammy set out to create with her move to Lubbock. Because, you know, where do I want to live? An apartment where a small family was brutally murdered. With pauses in her speech, Mary said Tammy was raised in the hub city. Where the fuck even is this? Texas! It's in Texas! When Mary separated from her husband, her daughter was moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Wanting to raise her children where she grew up, Mary said Tammy moved her family to the housing complex in Lubbock, where she and her kids would later be found dead. Although she has not heard from police in quite some time, Mary said she has never stopped hoping. I would like to know who killed them very much, she said. Well, go out and find them. Get your hands on the killer first, and then... Sweet, sweet revenge. It won't fix anything, but it'll make you feel better. Like Tammy's family and friends, officials say the case weighs heavy on their minds, for sure. Definitely weighs on those cops' minds. Lubbock Police Lieutenant John Hayes said the case has been difficult for officers to deal with. Number one, fortunately we don't have too many quadruple homicides in Lubbock, not yet, so that's a good thing. And number two, probably the main reason that I think it's been termed that way, is just the fact that you have 3 children involved. Hey, good job, you brought up number 2, unlike the last cop. The young victims in the case were not only innocent, the 18-year-old police veteran said, but they had not lived their life long enough. That tends to be how it goes when kids are murdered. What makes this case even more difficult, he said, is the family had not developed routine contacts as they had lived in the city for less than a year when the murders had occurred. With this family being new to Lubbock, relatively new, 6 months or so in the community, it's hard to establish a baseline behavior, so you can't really tell what deviates from the norm, because you aren't really sure what the norm is, and that hinders the case to a degree as well. The case supposedly stays fresh according to this article, but I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It probably does not. In Investigators consider the case active, and Dr. Sridhar Natarajan, Chief Medical Examiner for Lubbock County Medical Examiner's Office, said the case stays fresh on everyone's mind. You're really... Who are you trying to convince here, Lubbock Avalanche Journal? Natarajan said law enforcement is intently and actively pursuing any and all leads, because I'm sure they're turning up a lot. I think law enforcement has not let this case just be... Oh my god. Pardon the yawn. Lindari, edit that out if you can. If not, just leave it all. I'll leave it all. I know currently we are at the 12th anniversary, but this case comes up often both by law enforcement agencies and their concern in trying to solve it, as well as the district attorney's office not being able to go over specific details. He said the case had a personal nature as it involved a single mother and her 3 children. The manner in which each victim was killed, the innocence in the children, he said, made this a very horrendous case that would be unusual in any city. Yeah, because normally sick fucks don't kill kids. According to Najaran, that's definitely how you say it, maximum efforts, time, and manpower went into the investigation, but little did you know, manpower is actually just 1 horsepower. 1 horse is 15 horsepower, which means horse is 15 times stronger than man, so put some horsepower into that. There's so many things that have happened since this case in the West Texas area, but yet our folks are not willing to let it go. For sure, definitely. Cooper's friend, Susie McDade, says she never stops thinking of the case, especially the children, probably because you knew them. My little niece graduated and her daughter would have been right there with her, she said as tears gathered in the corner of her eyes. Moving, truly. Calling the 3 children respectful and loving, McDade said Halloween is a difficult time for her because it brings up reminders of the children and the killings. That's how grief works. While her family would visit the children often and grew connected to the kids, she said Tammy remained a mystery as she kept private to herself. McDade, too, said the killer must have been an acquaintance of Tammy's. No fucking shit. Who's this butch guy that was in her house? If Tammy made a mistake in her personal life, she said she hopes someone cares enough to come forward, as the incident still hurts her and the community. The killer's not gonna come forward. And until someone is brought to justice, she said she will lean on her faith, because that is what all of the American South has done, and look at their highway infrastructure. It's really worked. I know one day God will bring forward no. Immediately no. I may be dead and gone when it comes, but somebody will find him. I hope somebody will for the kids' sake. Praying for resolution. That's a great one. Mary's voice grew strong when she said her babies, her grandchildren and daughter, were lovable and she misses them every day. That is how loss works. It bothers Mary knowing the person who did this may have been someone else who was welcome in her home. And she prays for a resolution soon. Pray some more. See how far it gets you. Not to be pessimistic here, but prayer is not how you solve crimes. Listen, if you want to pray for someone to get better, if you want to pray for something, that's cool. But if you're going to write an informative article about it, maybe talk about the details of the case. And it's another thing to have the effects of the people around it in there. That's a good touch. But there's no need to have... And how will we solve this case? What do the people think? Jesus Christ! Stop it. We don't need that, Texas. As a matter of fact, we don't need Texas. Let's get rid of it. Asked if she had anything she wanted to share, her voice began to shake again. I love them wherever they are. I love them. All 4 of them, she said. That's actually kind of sad. While tips have started to dwindle, Hayes said police hate to refer to it as a cold case. He said the case has 2 investigators who are still reaching out to people in an effort to attain additional or new information, and every piece of information is critical to the investigation, but you gotta keep it real with yourself. 12 years after the case, really, you're not gonna get it. So, yeah, here's all the clickbaits. Oh boy, it's more Jesus Christ. It's just what we needed. More Jesus Christ. Fuck you, advertisements. Let's get this over with. And what do you know? We did it. We survived. That's all of level 10. Level 11 next. I'm about to pass the fuck out. If you made it this far, I'd like to take a second to thank you genuinely for watching. Despite my heavily sarcastic demeanor in a lot of my videos, I do enjoy every second of this, and I enjoy even more that people actually enjoy it with me, after I've made the thing. So, that means the world to me. Thank you guys so much. I don't know if it'll be 2022 when this is uploaded, but this might very well be my last video of 2021, which is an interesting thought. And lastly, regardless of if you're new here, if you liked it, if you made it this far, go ahead and just consider subscribing. It's completely free. You're clearly mildly bored. I'm mildly entertaining. And just tired enough that I make zero fucking sense. Also, to the old guard who's been subscribed for a while, tell me what you thought of the return of the more sarcastic, sardonic humor, rather than just me
deep-throating the microphone.
Now, God bless this microphone for putting up with everything I put it through. Without further ado, I'm gonna shut the fuck up. Y'all have a wonderful time whenever you see this, and until next time, memento mori.